Hi everyone, it's Gigabeef here. Today we're going to take a look at Factory and how not to die in the first 5 seconds. Factory is one of my favourite maps in Tarkov, but played wrong it can drain your stash and cash faster than any other map in the game. My other videos in this series have been for the first minute, but Factory is so fast paced that the first 5 to 10 seconds can make or break a raid. Fortunately, we only have a few spawns to go through as this map is so tiny compared to the others we've covered in the past. So let's look at the overview. Factory is made up of 3 main rooms, the office area and the tunnels. One other area of note is the forklifts up here. The spawn points are typically gathered in the bottom left and top right of the map, which splits the initial PvP into 2 separate places. Players are typically looking to do one of 2 things, either rush the office or hunt other player spawns nearby, so we have to take both of these into consideration when we think about our plays. Normally, the 2 hottest PvP areas are forklifts, which will usually be active right at the start of the game, and then office at around 15 to 20 seconds in as players arrive from points around the map. As a first general tip, because Factory is so small and there are so few places people can be, hearing is even more important than it is normally. Use this to figure out where your opponents are likely to be. This leads us naturally into the first spawn that we're going to check out, which is the back room off forklifts. If you're looking for action, this one is usually pretty exciting. There's a triple spawn dynamic here, as you can have PMCs both to your left and also straight down the glass corridor, so expect a fight from the word go. Players at glass will either be trying to rush or camp your spawn, or run to office, so it's a 50-50 if someone will be coming down there. If you're running something budget, or even just short range oriented, the fight down glass can be quite long ranged relatively, so just watch out for people sitting right at the other end with a scope like a 2x or a 3x and don't stand in the way of their sightline. Usually it's better to try and take on the guys on the left first, as they don't have many places to go other than rush your spawn, or clear it yourself if there is no one there. Remember to run or jump over the glass sightline just in case, as they can be set up before you get there. Once the left is cleared, you can come back and think about the guys from glass afterwards. On the left corridor, one issue is the path is quite narrow, which makes it a bit dangerous when you move down. However, their options are limited to either A. pushing you beforehand, B. holding position around the left corner, or C. holding behind the forklift in the middle. You can see around your own forklift if they are holding in the middle, and for the left angle, people love to hold behind these boxes as the sightline is blocked from the 2 doors, so it's very common. Another option is jumping down the staircase to block sight on your body as you look over, but this is something that I don't do very often, as normally I run super close range kit for Factory, plus it's very loud and you give a lot of information to the glass spawn people. It does give you a nice escape route from grenades however. It is possible to chill in the initial room, as someone doesn't always spawn there, but if you get heard or seen or grenaded, you're pretty screwed, which is the reason why I think being in the forklift area itself is generally better, as there are more locations that you could be in. In this clip here, some guys from glass have already killed my squad, and I'm retracing back through forklifts. However, one of them moves very slightly, which gives their position away. If I had a grenade here, they were 100% dead. However, when one shoots the Mosin, I rush in and they're healing behind the boxes in a typical spot. Let me just pause quickly here to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed so far. If you feel like these tips are helpful and want to see more in the future, consider dropping a sub to help support the channel, or come drop by on Twitch where I'll be streaming on Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays. The next spawn is the other forklift spawn. We've covered this one a bit in the first, but here you have the choice either to engage spawn 1 or use the tunnels to get to the office block. There is a spawn in the tunnels as well, but typically they head off to the office also. You could do this using the west stairs out of the pit to cross to the south office door in the pit room. You will be a little bit late, but it's unlikely that you'll meet other PMCs on exactly the same route outside of the tunnel guys. Anyway, back to the forklifts area. I would advise against going outside if you're playing a regular raid and not just running to the office for the quest. You can take a quick route to the office from here, but it's very hard to see through the glass corridor to engage anyone that spawns there, plus you're out in the open so it's super risky with no cover. I'm not a massive fan of pushing right into the forklift room to engage unless you flush them out with grenades first, as it's really obvious where you're coming from and they can position behind lots of different pieces of cover. In a fight between 2 evenly skilled players, you want to take as much of an advantage as you can. As they have to fight against 2 potential spawns, I like to use this to be slightly more passive and see if they come into the corridor itself, using our ears to pop out if they do. If they have a fight with the glass spawn guys, this gives us a ton of information to reposition and get a good lock on who's where. To finish our triangle, let's have a look at the glass spawn. As I said, half the time players will use this spawn to get up into the office, as it's the closest on this side to the northern vending machine stairs. However, you get a good look at anyone if they're coming out of the forklift spawn, as they can't get out in time before you spot them. Given that it's hard to approach from another angle, you can afford to wait here for a moment if that's your intention. Just beware that the box in the corridor can be shot through, and also make sure that you aren't going to be engaged as you move down, as you'll have nowhere to go. Otherwise, you can use this spawn to move directly to office. You'll be able to either take a position on the top floor by the staircase with Skybridge before anyone else, or actually run into the office room itself, which is a big plus. Many fights occur across this top floor, so a carefully placed grenade here can work a treat. The final spawn in this area is the one in the tunnels. I don't much like this spawn as it's hard to get anywhere without being heard, but at least you're relatively safe right from the start. You can either go to forklifts for some super early PvP, in which case I prefer to use the ramp and the doors despite the risk of being outside, as the stairs are so loud and pinpoint you easily, or again you can move through the pit to the office door if you prefer fights in the staircases, the bathroom and the office itself. You're unlikely to be first to either, so you'll need to adjust your plays for being second rather than the primary initiator of a fight. Next up, let's shift right down to the south side of the map. These spawns were a touch more spaced out and it's a bit less nuts down here, but everything really revolves around the office itself. For the room off the pit area, normally players take a direct line through the office door and up to the corridor on the south side. You can also try to counter the gate 0 spawn to the left before heading in, see if anyone is running across in the open, but players typically get deterred if they hear someone else running and can get cautious, leaving the way clear for you to enter the office itself. You should be the first to the staircase if you're fast. The gate 0 spawn is also okay to run to office, but in a mirror image you should take care on your right hand side for the pit area spawns. There is another potential spawn out in the blue containers which you need to look out for as well. An alternative for a slightly slower start is to look out into the open area using cover and stick around the tunnels for the final spawn in this area before moving out where you want to be. The last two spawns are quite rare. This one out in the open, I hardly ever come in here. You can either double back and try to catch gate 0 spawns, or try to jump straight over into the office stairs. You can get caught doing this, but if you're fast enough it shouldn't matter. I usually head straight to the office, as you're not in a great position to cut people off from the pit, so you're really banking on someone being in gate 0, whereas I'd rather be up in the office stairs to try and catch people out. One final spawn in the tunnels is also infrequent but quite horrible. My best advice for this one is to sit on the corner of the intersection so that you have somewhere to go in any direction and listen, respond and react as it happens. It's hard to get anywhere without people hearing you from this spawn, so I just try to keep my options open and figure it out on the fly. So that's it for spawn points. Just a couple of other things to note before I go. Fights in Factory are quite tricky, and their own little metagame in themselves sometimes, especially around the office. Here's a few ideas that have worked well for me so far. Number 1. Always bring the factory exit key. This changes the game for PMC, as the ability to use the cellars and gate 0 in addition to gate 3 is life-saving. Number 2. Fights in the office corridor with PMCs on the north side. I tend to wait for people to commit down the northern corridor and then move out when they have nowhere to go. This seems to work an incredible amount of the time. A 60 round mag really helps also. Number 3 is clearing stairs. People love to stand at the top and look down. Make sure you check the gap as you move across and keep paying attention to whoever might be up there. Sound is a bit bugged in Tarkov on stairs, so you have to be extra careful and use your eyes instead. And lastly, number 4. People playing Factory are either typically low-kitted dudes finishing quests, or almighty juggernauts with full gear. When you don't run a face shield, as I don't most of the time, you still have to be careful of the pistol PMCs at point blank. Even though I hate face shields, I actually consider it for Factory on occasion. As an aside, the MP7 is an absolute beast on this map. So hopefully this guide will give you an idea of how to get started playing PMC on Factory, and not just scavving in for target practice. Factory can be a super fun map once you have it down, and a nice break of pace from the long sweeping raids in the rest of our Tarkov games. It can be crazy, and frustrating at times, but once you have the beginning down, the rest tends to follow. And with that, it's ta-ta for now, and as always, have fun in your raids.